Today on Drawbli, Abby is drawing.
I want to show you what I learned by watching Loish tutorials.
Okay, I had no idea. Click that subscribe button if you are new around here.
And comment below with other ideas of what we can do to improve our art.
So, you learned some things recently. I would love to hear about them.
Yeah.
Because this one's a complete surprise for me. I had no idea.
Yeah, so this is obviously not in the style of Loish, but I did watch a couple of her tutorials.
You subscribe to her Patreon, right?
I am, because I think she's an incredible artist, and I just love her.
Very deserving.
Yes, and so I watched a couple of her tutorials, and so I decided to apply just a little marginal amount of that information to what I'm doing here.
Okay.
So, I got a phone call. I will start by saying that, I watched two tutorials, and one of them was about her sketching. And the first thing she emphasized was keeping your very first sketch very, very light and only going in and darkening some lines once the entire sketch is complete.
I have a bad habit of not doing that, and it's something I want to work on.
The second thing, and which will explain this and I was inspired to do this second thing because of this hand I sketched earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what is the second thing?
So the second thing is using your shading or your hatchwork of your shading, not so much to convey shading as using it to emphasize form.
Yes.
So when she draws lines for shading, she's not just scribbling back and forth. Her shading wraps in the direction of the form.
There's lots of masters that preach this.
Yeah. So, and Loish is the first one that I've heard it from explicitly. So for this piece, and I really noticed this more at the end, I didn't really focus on the entire fundamental of getting the structure of this man's head to neck correct. Later, when I one day eventually flip this canvas, which will be never practically, maybe at the very end, I do see that his neck is super wonky, but we're not going to worry about that. We're more worried about trying to convey the forms of like his cheeks and cheekbones. The stuff with his jaw and chin ended up looking super weird, like hairy to me and noodly. So I blur that out a lot to try to cover that up.
Okay.
But I go back in a million times. So because the focus of this entire piece was I told myself, okay, it's a value study, but all of my values can only come with form first. So yes, I can put in a value, but it has to be only because I am putting in lines that represent the form there. Which was a really fun challenge to me because it was very meticulous. Like, whereas normally I might have gone in with a selection tool and just said, okay, this whole area can be darker here because there's a dark area.
Right.
Everything was lines to say, oh, this wraps here. I think this wraps here because I'm trying to use just to teach myself to see form and how things wrap and to convey that a lot better.
I love it. Yeah, this is how I see the world.
Yeah.
Whenever I am going to start a new digital sculpt, I will, if it's going to be a bigger project, I will always do a draw over. And essentially what I do is kind of what you're doing now. I draw the contours of this shape to make sure that I understand how the form is wrapping and go in a very similar fashion to what you're doing right now. But not nearly quite as detailed because it's not worth quite that much of a look into it.
Yeah, probably.
You're drawing it like this is different than what I do. I draw over top of the image to do like a contour to like say here is how this form is wrapping.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha. And honestly, like this would not be a style that I would employ incredibly regularly because it is very time consuming and meticulous and doesn't necessarily yield incredible results, but
incredible learning.
You're
an incredible learner.
Yes. So again, the two big things that I was trying to convey or teach myself was to stay light with my lines until it was really time to darken some, and then be very selective about what I darken.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, and then of course to show form with my shading and values. And then, do you remember when we did a Drawbli that was like drawing our favorite office characters, and I sketched Karen, and then I added color in the end, and it was a total airbrush disaster?
Oh no! Yes.
Well, I tried again, and once again, I have color at the end, and it's
Is it that period that we were talking about in a recent episode where we were saying, that middle area is the most like when you're in the zone, but
exactly.
the end you peter out and you just kind of phone it in.
Yeah, I tried to add some shading with hues and some lighting with different hues. But I was just kind of tired, and I was like, it's fine.
You know what might be a good practice for us is something that is mentioned in the Force drawing by Michael D.
Yeah, what's that?
Is before he has his students create a gesture drawing, and we could apply this to like not just gesture, but really any project, is he has them write down like a list of things that they see and also like a list of goals almost. So like one thing you could write before you started this is like maybe like, oh, draw lines that follow the form. And if on that list adding color isn't there and you get to the end and you're like, oh, I want to add some color. It's like, well, I don't know. Was that your focus? Or are you just gonna like splash that in at the end and not really do a lot with it? Like I think a list is like a good way to be really intentional too.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, as a learner especially, that would especially benefit me to stay true to what I'm trying to learn that day rather than bounce around to a million different concepts of what I'm trying to understand, because there's so many fundamentals.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I actually think this is looking really interesting. Like when you zoom in there on the face, just all these lines working together, it's really cool.
Oh, I think that said 1 hour. Yeah, thank you. I was using the Sketchboard Pro, which is such a game changer. We're not sponsored, but gosh, it's really nice.
For those that don't know, it's like a big sketch or art
drawing
pad
board that you can set your iPad into, and it allows you to use your whole arm. It really frees up the motion of your body to be able to create.
Yeah, it's a little less cramped than just drawing on the iPad.
Yeah, I find for me it makes a huge difference. So I'm really glad I bought one for you for your birthday.
It makes a huge difference, yes. Recently hit the big 3.0 and have a beautiful new sketchboard.
Yeah,
to work with.
Depending on how often I try to go to use it and you're using it, I may end up buying one for me too.
Oh no, I think anytime that you need to use it, you just let me know.
Okay, thanks.
I will step away.
Oh gosh.
I do really enjoy using it though, but I'm glad that you have had a lot of good things come out of it. So here with the hair, do you employ this same strategy?
No, the hair I decide I'm totally permitted to just block in the dark value. It's kind of blurry as hair is anyway. With the curls, I do try to get the curls kind of in that wild, chaotic pattern a little bit. But even that I'd have to back down on after a bit. I take them a little too far and say, no, that's distracting.
I actually feel that this is the titular Abby style, where I have seen many times with you on ink on paper draw in a very similar fashion to what you're doing right now. And I think maybe you just didn't even realize it. But I've seen you do exactly this multiple times.
Oh, and you know what that reminds me? And this is funny, but actually I remembered an original intention that I sat down with to try to do this. And when I sketched the hand first and this, I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but frustrated by my inability to replicate pen and paper drawing on the iPad. And so I told myself as much as possible for this, I wanted to practice.
This feels like pen.
Tuning into that, yeah.
These look like pen marks.
Stop telling myself, oh, I can't accomplish that on the iPad, and instead just practice and work and find a solution until I am capturing that quite a bit more.
You're done complaining. Now you're just getting to work. Wow.
Yes. Never bring a problem without also bringing a solution to the table.
I like it.
Yeah, that's my philosophy.
Even the color of the brushstroke that you're using.
It looks like a blue ballpoint pen.
It does.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, and I like that. I chose blue intentionally because I heard that it's easier to shift the hue. Then I must have missed where I added color.
Oh, that's okay.
But I added color.
Ooh, color.
Yeah. And I think I stopped recording for a second. I was like, no, I think I'm going to actually go in and do some color. Yeah, see, I changed it to brown. And I like that. And you can see this is where I'm kind of phoning in some highlights that I'll drag down. I added some
now,
red
are you
to
looking
his
at your
cheeks and
reference
nose.
at this point? No?
No.
Well, that'll do it for you. You gotta look at that reference,
I wanted
Abby.
to be branching out, be brave. And I was. And I gave him a nice kind of toothy paper background to make him look more like a sketch on
toothy.
paper.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that here. His neck is fun.
His neck is really weird.
That's okay. A floating head with like a neck not attached to anything.
I saw, this is when I flipped the canvas and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh no. You could fix 99% of the problems here with a little liquefy.
A little liquefy goes a long way.
Yeah.
But
this is really cool. It's a lot of fun.
And like I said, it was never about the form being perfect as a fundamental building block. This was more about trying to practice different elements. So yeah, he looks wonky, but I accomplished what I set out to do.
Well, if you at home want to accomplish what you are going to set out to do, you should click that subscribe button.
And comment below with other ideas of what we can do to improve.
And this is the part where we say...
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
What's he remind you of?
What does he remind me of? Like a little sludge man with his...
Oh, no.
Well, it's just the neck. It's the neck. It's the neck. Like he's coming up out of the ground.
I should have taken my time with his neck. Oh my gosh.